7 women walked out of the Love is Blind Season 10 pods wearing engagement rings, which was a franchise record. And by the time the Netflix reunion aired on March 11, 2026, every single one of those relationships had a story that nobody fully saw coming. Welcome back. If you already watched Season 10, you know it was a lot, but the reunion hit differently because the cameras kept rolling long after the weddings were over and the real consequences had already set in. A marriage that lasted 4 months and ended in a divorce announcement on live television. A pregnancy reveal that blindsided the woman who was supposed to matter most. A second-chance love story between 2 people who almost missed each other entirely. And one man who sat on that stage, apologized to basically everyone in the room, and still couldn't stick the landing. This is the full breakdown of everything that happened at the Love is Blind Season 10 reunion. Every bombshell, every confrontation, every moment that had people screaming at their screens. The most watched, unscripted streaming series of all time with 3 Critics' Choice Awards, created by Chris Colin, who also brought us Married at First Sight and The Ultimatum, delivered its most intense reunion yet. Nick and Vanessa Lachey hosted this Columbus, Ohio milestone event, and if you are already stressed and we haven't even started yet, go ahead and hit that like button now, because it only gets messier from here.
10 seasons of Love is Blind in the United States is not a small thing, and Netflix treated this reunion like the milestone it was. Over 150 former alums packed that room. Giannina and Damien from Season 1 were there. Season 6's Jessica showed up carrying an EpiPen, which is the single funniest callback this franchise has ever pulled off. And married couples from across all 10 seasons filled the audience. Tiffany and Brett, Zach and Bliss, Chelsea and Kwame, Amy and Johnny, Daniel and Taylor, Garrett and Taylor. Dave Bettenberg from Season 8 even made an appearance, and Nick Lachey could not help himself. He looked at Dave and delivered the line, "Sorry to say his sister still couldn't make it to the family reunion," which landed exactly as intended for anyone who remembers that season. Before the episode even streamed, Netflix held a virtual watch party on Tudum at 12:30 p.m. ET with deleted scenes, surprise guests, and a live chat. The whole production was built around celebration. And then the Season 10 cast walked out, and that celebratory energy shifted fast. Speaking of things shifting fast, if you are not subscribed yet, now would be a great time, because this channel covers every reunion, every finale, and every dramatic moment this show produces, and you do not want to miss the next one.
32 Ohio-based singles between the ages of 28 and 38 entered the pods for Season 10, which followed the same format the show has always used. Fall in love without seeing each other, get engaged, move in together, plan a wedding, and find out whether what felt real in the dark actually holds up once you can see each other's faces. What made this season different from the start was the sheer number of engagements. 7 women left the pods with rings, which broke the franchise record and set expectations unusually high going into the finale. The season right before this one, Season 9, ended with 0 marriages, not a single couple saying yes at the altar. So Season 10 had a lot riding on it from a franchise perspective. 2 couples made it to the altar on March 4th, 2025, when the finale dropped. Vic and Christine, and Amber and Jordan. Keep both of those couples in mind, because their reunion stories land in completely opposite places. Vic and Christine are still married, still happy, still apparently the people in the room who remembered what the show was supposed to be about. Christine relocated from Cleveland to Columbus to be with Vic after the season wrapped, and her description of that decision was about as low drama as it gets. "I just swooped in and moved. It could not have been more meant to be." What makes this even better is that Connor and Bri happened to live just a few doors down in Columbus, meaning the Ohio Pod Squad did not scatter. They literally became neighbors. Vic, for those who remember, stood at the altar and described seeing Christine walk toward him this way. "The first time we met, I lost words, and then this time came down the aisle and I can't find my words."
That line hit at the finale, and watching them at the reunion confirmed it wasn't just a wedding day feeling. It held. One more detail worth mentioning. TurboTax gifted the couple a special honeymoon getaway to celebrate their first time filing taxes together as a married couple, which is both a very obvious sponsorship and genuinely wholesome. And they are finally taking that international trip they have been talking about. Vic and Christine are doing great. Now let's talk about everything that went sideways.
This is the segment that broke the internet, and for good reason. Amber and Jordan were one of only 2 couples who stood at the Season 10 altar and said yes. 4 months later, they were divorced, and Jordan had never even moved in. That timeline makes this the shortest marriage in Love is Blind history, and the reunion is where the rest of the world found out. What nobody expected was that Amber and Jordan would arrive carrying 2 completely different versions of what went wrong, with no interest in reconciling them. Amber's account centered on distance. Jordan stayed in a different city and came up on weekends, and her frustration came through clearly. It's really difficult to trust someone when they're only coming up on the weekends. None of that compared, though, to what she revealed next, that when Jordan finally left for good, he never said goodbye to her 7-year-old daughter, Emma. That was the moment Amber stood up and told him directly, "Don't effing come into somebody's life if you're going to do that." And then she walked off the stage.
Jordan's version ran in the opposite direction. He described driving to see Amber after work, cooking her dinner, and then driving back at 5 in the morning, only to be told those visits didn't count. Screaming, he said, became a regular feature of the relationship, and an incident in a wedding where he claimed Amber had too much to drink was the kind of moment that pushed him away. His summary of the whole marriage was blunt. The negatives outweighed the positives. Amber came back to the stage. The tension stayed thick. And then Jordan did something that reframed the whole segment. He looked past the audience, directly into the camera, and spoke to Emma. "I know we found such an amazing bond. I'm so sorry that it ended that way." Whatever anyone thinks of how Jordan handled this marriage, that moment landed differently, because at the center of all this adult drama is a 7-year-old girl who got attached to someone who disappeared from her life. No reunion argument resolves that. One piece of franchise history worth noting: this is the first time on American Love is Blind that a divorce has been announced at a reunion. It has happened on Love is Blind UK before, but never on the US version. Season 10 just made history, and not the kind anyone was celebrating. If you are watching this feeling genuinely upset on Amber's behalf, same. Like the video so the algorithm knows this content deserves to be seen, because frankly, Amber deserves her flowers.
Bri and Connor never made it down the aisle. Bri pulled out on the wedding day, which looked like a breakup from the outside, but was not, and the reunion gave her the space to explain why. Her words were some of the most self-aware the show has ever aired. "Connor loved me for everything I was in that experiment. It was not the best version of myself. I can't marry you as this person right now because I was spiraling." Bri wasn't walking away from Connor. She was refusing to hand someone she genuinely cared about a marriage built on a version of herself she knew was struggling. That takes a level of honesty that rarely gets enough credit on this show. Connor, for his part, stayed. He moved to Columbus and now lives a few doors down from Bri and from Vic and Christine, which means the Pod Squad genuinely colonized a Columbus neighborhood. At the reunion, Connor described the past year simply: "The past year has been a ton of fun, and we've grown so much and grown even closer." When someone questioned whether he was just stalling with someone who wouldn't commit, his response shut it down immediately. "I would not waste somebody's time, especially Bri's freaking time." Netflix also sent them on a do-over honeymoon after their original Malibu plans fell apart, which, good for them, genuinely. Bri and Connor look like a couple that is going to be fine, and watching them next to Vic and Christine at the reunion, it was hard not to feel like Columbus ended up with 2 genuinely solid love stories. Devonta and Brittany did not get married. Their relationship ended before the altar, which was already a completed chapter. Until Devonta sat down at the reunion and announced, in front of a live audience, that he is now engaged to someone else and expecting a baby. Brittany confirmed right there on camera that she was hearing this for the very first time. Not in a phone call beforehand, not in a heads up from producers. She found out the same moment everyone watching at home did. Her response deserves to be remembered. "It's okay, I'm not fazed by it." She added that she is not currently seeing anyone and held her composure through the entire segment with a steadiness that was genuinely striking given what had just happened. Devonta explained that his new partner is an old friend from college. "We've never dated, never talked, anything. It was just kind of like an old flame that took off," he said, and he kept her name out of the conversation entirely. What he could not keep out of the conversation was the work trip. It came out at the reunion that Devonta had told Brittany he was traveling for work when he was actually in Austin, Texas, attending a Rufus concert with fellow cast members Bri, Ashley, and Priyanka. That is not a work trip. That is just a lie told to someone who had already given him a significant amount of trust. Brittany's father had the floor for a moment, and he used it well. Looking directly at Devonta, he said, "This is not a game. You don't say, 'I'm not going to quit.' You say, 'I'm going to commit,' and then you do everything you can to be the man that you said you were going to be. Please, take that lesson and apply it." The room responded accordingly. Brittany got the final word, and she chose grace. "Although we are no longer in a relationship together, the bond that we have is going to last for an eternity." Brittany Wicker came to that reunion with her head up, and she left with it higher. Subscribe button is right there. Brittany would want you to. She's that kind of person, and you know it. Chris broke off his engagement to Jessica during the season by telling her she wasn't his physical type because she didn't work out every day, with CrossFit and Pilates specifically cited as the standard she didn't meet. That moment alone made him one of the least popular cast members of the season. None of that would have been forgotten by the reunion, but Chris did not stop there. After ending things with Jess, he began aggressively pursuing Bri, who was still engaged to Connor, a man Chris considered a friend, and got caught sending Bri direct messages behind Connor's back. The entire cast group cut him off after that. At the reunion, Chris sat down and attempted something like accountability. He apologized to Connor directly. "Connor, I'm sorry I disrespected you," acknowledged putting Bri in an uncomfortable position, and offered his honest assessment of himself. "The truth was, I was emotionally immature, and I put physical chemistry over emotional connection. I wasn't fully ready going into this." About watching himself back on screen, he admitted, "Watching it back was tough. I'm not proud of a lot of those moments." None of that hit the way Chris probably hoped it would. When he finished, Nick Lachey looked at him and asked, "That's it?" 2 words. The silence that followed said everything. Amber Morrison, seated nearby, was more direct. "I do still hate you." Present tense, no ambiguity. Jess handled it with more composure than the moment required. Her response to Chris's apology was clean and final. "Thank you for apologizing, and more importantly, thank you for showing me who you were quickly." A woman who has clearly done the work and moved on, and as it turns out, moved on to something much better. If you have made it this far and you are not subscribed, Chris Fusco energy. Don't be Chris. Hit subscribe. Jessica Barrett, the woman Chris dismissed because she didn't meet his gym standards, arrived at the reunion in a relationship, a real one, with someone who had actually been paying attention. She and Haramal Gill, a fellow doctor who had a deep connection with Jess and the pods, are now together. Haramal did not take the leap during filming. At the reunion, he admitted plainly that at the time he wasn't brave enough to make the move. After the show, that changed. Jess described how things started with a disarming kind of casualness. "It took a very long time for us to actually sit down, just the two of us. I came in sweatpants like, 'What's up? Let's hang out.' No performance, no pressure. Just 2 people finally in the same room without the experiment between them." Haramal described choosing to take a second chance seriously. If the universe gives you a second chance, you take that seriously. At the reunion, he looked at Jess and said, "You are everything, Jess.
Every room you walk into gets brighter.
After the reunion wrapped, the two did their official Instagram hard launch, and the comments were predictably enthusiastic. The full-circle nature of this storyline is hard to ignore. Chris rejected Jess over her fitness habits. Haramal, who had months to think about what he had almost let walk away, chose her in sweatpants. That is not a small thing. Emma and Mike did not get married, and their finale moment already carried a lot of weight. The reunion added a layer that reframed it entirely. Mike came to the reunion with a girlfriend. Her name is Cara. They have been together just over 7 months, and they do not currently live in the same city. Emma, for her part, went straight to therapy after the show. Both of those details are relatable in their own way. What nobody expected was the reveal Mike brought with him. A couple of days before their wedding, he and Emma had reportedly agreed together that they would both say no at the altar, the plan being to end the experiment but continue the relationship outside of it. Emma walked down the aisle and said yes. Mike described feeling blindsided. Emma's side of this never got fully unpacked at the reunion, which leaves the obvious question unanswered. Was it a genuine change of heart, or was the agreement less clear than Mike remembers? No one watching at home got a clean answer, but the reveal reshapes how that finale moment reads in hindsight. What looked like a straightforward no versus yes turns out to have had a conversation behind it that neither of them publicly resolved.
Ashley and Alex never made it to the altar, and by the time the reunion arrived, the distance between their perspectives had not narrowed at all. Ashley asked Alex directly what his real reason for going on the show was. His answer, to find a wife. I just didn't see any. Nick Lachey pushed back immediately, pointing out that Alex had still proposed, which meant at some point he thought he found someone. Alex's response split the difference. Emotionally, yeah. His feelings, he said, began to shift after they actually met outside the pods. It was uncomfortable to sit with, but it was honest in a way that not everyone in that room managed. Alex basically confirmed he meant the proposal when he made it, and then changed his mind when reality arrived. That is not a great outcome for Ashley, but it is at least a real explanation rather than a deflection.
A couple of things about Season 10 deserve attention beyond the individual couple updates. The cast mentioned at the reunion that conversations around political deal-breakers, including Trump-related discussions, took place during filming and never made it to air. Their framing of it was simple. Not everything makes the cut. That is a reminder worth sitting with, because what Netflix airs is always a shaped version of what actually happened, and the editing choices are part of what makes the show feel the way it does. Produced by Kinetic Content, the same production company behind hit franchises like Little Women and other Lifetime series, this show continues to dominate the streaming landscape. Season 9 ended with 0 marriages. Not a single couple said yes. Season 10 came in with a record 7 engagements and 2 weddings, and by March 11, 2026, one of those 2 marriages had already ended at the reunion. The pendulum does not stay still on this show. And for the record books, the first divorce ever announced at an American Love is Blind reunion happened at this one. Season 10 made history on both ends of the spectrum, the most engagements and the fastest confirmed marriage ending. That is the Ohio Pod Squad's legacy.
Here is where everything lands. 32 Ohio singles, 7 engagement rings, 2 weddings, and a reunion that confirmed the experiment does not stop when filming ends. It keeps going, and so do the consequences. Vic and Christine are still married, still in Columbus, still going on that international trip. Bri and Connor live a few doors down from them and are growing closer. Jess found something real with Haramal after the man who rejected her gave his apology to a room that wasn't buying it. 3 relationships heading somewhere that looks like it might actually hold. And then there is everything else. A 4-month marriage that ended before Jordan ever unpacked a box. A pregnancy announcement that landed on Brittany in real time. A pre-wedding agreement that turned a no into a yes without anyone explaining why.
a daughter named Emma who deserved a proper goodbye and did not get one. This reunion was heavy in the way that real things are heavy, not scripted drama, not manufactured tension, but actual people dealing with actual fallout from decisions they made in a very unusual situation. Some of them handled it with grace, some of them did not. All of it was worth watching. If this video helped you make sense of everything that went down, a like costs you absolutely nothing and genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to know about the Rufus concert lie. Drop a comment with your hottest take. Who do you think came out of that reunion looking the best, and who needs to sit with a therapist before season 11 starts filming? Subscribe if you want to be here when the next one drops, and I will see you in the next video.